Hello everyone, it's Jamie and welcome back to my channel. It is Monday, November 21st and it is Thanksgiving week if you are in the US and if you celebrate Thanksgiving. So I have a cross-stitch update and then I will also talk about my plans for the rest of this upcoming week and what I will be working on. So the first thing that I have to show is the Pokemon piece that I was stitching. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet came out last week and I picked it up, and so before the games came out I was really wanting to stitch on my Pokemon chart, so I did. Here's where it was the last time you saw it, and here it is now. This is the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet chart from Glitch Stitch AU on Etsy, and I love it. So I wanted to stitch on all the starters and make sure I got all of the starters finished before the games came out, and I did. This is Sprigatito. It's a grass type cat, which is the one that I picked. Fuecoco is a fire crocodile, and then Quaxley is a water type duck, and they're just all so adorable. And then after I stitched on them, I decided I wanted to stitch on, this was, the start color is 939, and I wanted to stitch on that to get a lot of the outline of the switch done. So I did that, and I actually think that I finished 939. I actually have 7 colors finished on this, which is exciting because there was a lot of colors that are only used in the starters. So once I finished the starters, that finished a lot of colors. And so there's not that many colors left, and I think what I'm going to do is kind of get areas outlined, and then there will be a lot of filling in. So like the Joy-Cons are a lot of like one color on the top, and then there's also just a lot of one color of grass in this section. So once I get them outlined, I'll be able to just do stitching of just solid colors, which usually goes quick. This is 18 count Ada that I am stitching a bunch of other charts on. So these charts up here are from Bleach, and I found them on the website Sprite Stitch. And then this is Sailor Venus, and I found her on Sprite Stitch too. So there's that. The next thing that I have to show is the advent calendar that I'm stitching, which is from Doreen Jones on Etsy. I think it's just called Christmas Advent, and here's where it was the last time you saw it, and here it is now. I am just stitching the border right now, and then in December, on December 1st, I will start stitching the first block of the advent calendar, and then every day I will stitch the block for that day. I changed the chart a lot, and I cut off a lot of the border. So I did a border at the top, that's the way it's charted to be, and then I decided to cut out all the other borders that would be in between them, and I just decided to do a 1-stitch border in between each block. And the border is very close to being done, and I actually quit working on this last week because I figured this would be a good chart to take to my parents' house on Thanksgiving because it's just the one color that I need for the border. And I have already done all the counting because I had to count for the horizontal rows because there are some areas where I have to leave a space because this block goes into the block above it a tiny bit. So I needed to have a space in the border for that to happen sometimes. I think it happens right here. And so I had to count those out. But all the counting is done now, and then I can just stitch the vertical ones without having to really count. And I already have the bottom, so this is going to be the bottom. So there's that. I love that. This is on 16 count fresco from Picture This Plus. The next chart that I worked on is another Christmas chart. I am very into Christmas stitching right now, and it is the 12 Nights of Christmas from Atomic Tiki Pins, and this is a stitch-along that is based on Christmas movies. So originally it was 12 nights, so 12 Christmas movies, but she is actually charting I think 20 movies, but might be over 20 now, and so then you can kind of pick which movies you actually want to have on the sampler. And the first movie came out last week on Friday, and so I stitched that, and the first movie was Christmas Story. So here's where it was the last time you saw it. Here it is now. I decided too that I wanted to get the border stitched around the center. I know it's going to take me a really long time to actually get the center finished because the center is like 8,000 stitches, so it's going to take a while. Plus it has back stitching, and then there's also beads that you can use for the popcorn and for some snow along the bottom here, so it's going to take a while. And then for the border, it's originally charted to be DMC metallic in the color 437, and I didn't have that color. I think it's 437. It's 437 or 436. Either way, I didn't have it, so I just found some gold metallic that I had left over from a different chart, and I used that, and the border's not actually done. So the way I counted the border is I did the thing where you do a half stitch, and then every 10 stitches you do a full cross, and then that way you can easily count, you know, how many of the blocks you've done by just being like, there's an X there, so that's 10, an X 10, another X 10. It makes it easier to count without messing up. So this is 18 count fabric that I dyed myself because I just dye fabric a lot myself. It's easier than ordering online. I spend a lot of time looking at fabric online on different places because you never know how a fabric is actually going to look online because of cameras. So like this one here, Fresco, it looks so different online, and it also looks very different in people's pictures. I went on Facebook and I searched in like the different cross stitch groups for the fabrics to see people's projects that they're stitching on these fabrics. It always looks different in every picture, so sometimes it's really hard to order online, which is why I usually end up dyeing. So this is when I dyed, and I love it. So the Christmas story block, I love how many details are in there. So it says, "Oh fudge." It has the glasses with the broken lens. The leg lamp is on a bar of soap. You know, he gets soap poisoning, and it's just, I love it. So I did that, and I watched the new Christmas Story movie while I was doing it, which there's a new Christmas Story movie. It's on HBO Max if you don't know, and it's Ralphie, like the actual kid who played it is playing him as an adult, and it was kind of depressing. Like some of it, like the flashbacks, I don't know. You'd have to watch it and see. It wasn't terrible, it wasn't amazing, but that's kind of what you expect when they try and bring back a movie that is so popular. Anyways, so the next chart that I have to show is one that I worked on yesterday, and yesterday was Sunday, and I was just over switching colors because I had stitched on this Christmas Story chart yesterday too, and there's a lot of color changes in this. Like surprisingly, like the glasses actually have 2 different colors in the lens, the lamp has a couple different colors. There was just a lot of color changes in there, and I was not feeling more color changes. So this is Autumn Harmony from Maxine Gadd. Her artwork is on Maxine Gadd Creations, and she charts it herself. And this is what I ended up doing. So I started stitching here. I was trying to stitch in her hair because I really wanted to get progress done on her hair. And then I was just like over the changing of colors. I didn't want to stitch confetti. I just wanted to stitch one color. So I ended up looking and seeing what color is used a lot throughout the top. And I picked DMC 3371, so I started stitching that. So I stitched DMC 3371 going up, and this here is actually the top of the chart. And then I took it this way following a branch, and this here is going to be, there's like a really big tree on the side of the chart, so then I can just stitch on this tree when I don't want to stitch confetti. And so I'll have a nice area of like blocks of color that needs to be done. And then over here is actually the other edge of the chart. So I have the top of the chart and the edge of the chart now, which is really exciting because now I can kind of visualize somewhat how big this chart is going to be, and it's going to be huge. So this is being stitched on 18 count, 2/1 full cross. And yeah, it's ginormous. I can't believe how big it's going to be. So there's that. And then this is another chart that I stitched yesterday when I was not wanting to stitch confetti, and it's Santa's on His Way by Charting Creations, and here's where it was the last time you saw it. There's threads everywhere. And here it is now. So I was stitched a little bit more on the rooftop, trying to get the rooftop finished, but there's so many color changes. I didn't feel like doing any more color changes. So I picked DMC 995, which is used in the sky, and then I started following it up, and I got to the top of the chart, and then my plan is to start filling in a lot more of the sky. There's part thread, there's a needle on there. I want to fill in more of the sky and work my way down because I actually prefer stitching down instead of stitching up. So this chart is actually going to be not that wide because this is the top here, and I looked and the bottom of the chart is under here a little bit, so it's not going to be that wide, especially when you compare it to Autumn Harmony, but this is being stitched on 28 count 2 over 1 10 stitch. So there's that. And I think that is all that I have to show for my cross stitch progress, and then I will go into the plans for next week, which it's Thanksgiving week right now, so I don't know how much I'll actually get done, but we will see what I decide to put for my plans for this week. Hello and welcome to the planning section. So this is last week. I wanted to go over what my plans were for last week and if I accomplished them. So there was Autumn Harmony. I wanted to work on her hair, which I did her hair a little bit and then I went off, but I did do her hair. I wanted to work on my Pokemon chart, which I did. Advent, the border, which I did work on the border. 12 Nights of Christmas, get the border done, which I did that because then I was able to easily start the Christmas story section, and then I should be able to start everything else easily using the border now that it's done. And then Santa's on His Way, which I did. So for books, I had wanted to read Lore Olympus Volume 3, which is about, if you don't know, it's technically on Webtoons, and it's about gods like Zeus, Hades, Persephone, all that. And they have been releasing the webtoon version, so you can read it online as a graphic novel, and so I have been getting those from the library, and Volume 3 was the one that I was on. I don't think Volume 4 is out yet. I'm not sure if there's a release date yet for it, but when there is, I'll be putting a hold on that to get the next one, and I finished that. Then Full Moon, which is a Dresden Files book. It's a book series about a wizard, and he solves crimes with the police, and they're all crimes like the one that I'm reading now. This is the second one, is about some werewolves that are killing people. And it's an ebook that I got from the library, so I really need to finish reading that so that I can turn it back in. And then I also started listening to the audiobook, The Story of More, and that is a book, it's hard to explain. It's a book about how much people consume and how there are some people that consume way more than they necessarily should. And if they consumed less and shared with the people who have less, then there would be enough resources on the earth for everyone. But there's not enough resources on the earth for everyone to have an excess amount, if that makes sense. So basically, if like the people in the US, we use so much energy compared to poor countries who don't even, some of them don't have energy, still like electricity, and how if we cut back on our usage, there would be enough for everyone to have these things without it being a burden, I guess, on the earth. But I started listening to that. It's an audiobook from the library. I think I'm at like 75%, so it was fairly short. It's only like 6 hours, so I need to finish that next week. So there was that. And then we will go on to next week. I actually already wrote down next week's because it's easier to write it down when the camera's not in the way. So we will go to next week. This is the current week, so my plan is I want to work on Autumn Harmony more. I have really been enjoying working on that chart. I want to stitch more on 3371, which is the color that is used in the tree that I was stitching on. I really like stitching one color at a time because of how many stitches you can get done if you're not constantly changing colors. I also want to work more on Santa's on His Way because Christmas, I really want to stitch on that around Christmas, and he will probably be going away around Christmas time because then after that I'm going to be pulling out, I have another chart and it's not necessarily like Christmassy, it's more of what I consider like a winter chart, so then I'll be stitching that one in December and January, and Santa's on His Way will be put away. I also want to stitch on the Advent because I figure that will be a good chart to take to my parents' house for Thanksgiving. I will also be at my parents' house on the Friday after Thanksgiving because there's going to be a birthday party for my son and my nephew, so I can easily stitch on the Advent. I also want to keep working on 12 Nights of Christmas because more movies should be coming out this week. I am going to take the big red, what is it called? The Red Ship of Lesser Commitment. I'm going to take that one to my parents' house because it's a paper chart, and so that's easy to take with me because I don't bring my laptop when I go places, and that's what I have Pattern Keeper on, so if I want to stitch something somewhere else, I have to have a paper chart for that. And then another thing that I want to do, and it's not actually like a stitchy project, is I want to make my list of whips for December, because in December I'm going to be putting my whips on a random wheel and spinning, and I plan on putting whips that I haven't worked on in a while, and then also a few new starts, and then every other day in December I will be stitching the wheel. It will have 12 projects, so it will take me, if I spin on it every other day, it will take me right up until Christmas, and then after Christmas I will have some free time to, you know, kind of do what I want, but I figured that would be a fun thing to do leading up until Christmas, and it would get progress on things that haven't really been worked on this year. So that is my cross-stitch stuff. For books, I want to keep reading Full Moon. I'm going to keep listening to the story of More, and then also I have a book that was a surprise selection from my library. So my library does this thing where you can sign up on their website and you put what type of books you like and what you're interested in, and if you would like things that are similar, if you want things that are different, and then they will every 3 months have a book that they put on hold for you and have it waiting at the library, and they'll leave you like a little thing that tells you why they picked it. So the book that they picked for me this month was The Bruising of, I don't know how to say this, Kilwa. I'm not sure if I said that right, I probably didn't. And then they had a little paper in it that said why they picked it. So it says surprise selection, and it was chosen because it's a magical tale of diverse characters in a rich Persian inspired world. And they also give you other books for if you end up liking the book that they picked. And the book sounds pretty good, so I need to get started reading that so that I can finish it, hopefully. I do for books what I do for whip or cross stitch, where like I love to just start everything, but then it makes it really hard to actually get things finished. But you know, we like a little chaos. So there's that. And then also on the other side for this week, I actually did write what projects I'm going to be working on for Thursday and Friday, because those are the only days that where it's like set, where like I will work on the Advent, the Red Ship, and the Sub Pop Tea, or I'm going to take them to my parents' house. I always take way too much stuff because, you know, I just love overpacking, and so I always take way too much stuff to work on, and then I usually don't end up having as much time as I always think that I'm going to have, but it's fine. I would rather have more options instead of like going there and then having nothing, and then being like, I have nothing to do with my hands. But that is all that I have. It is time for me. I have to go pick up my kids. They have early release all week for conferences, so I need to go get them, which means less stitching time, but oh well, it's fine. Anyways, I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving if you celebrate Thanksgiving, and I will see you all in my next video, and there will also possibly be a video where I show the projects that I'm putting on my whip wheel so you can see what's going to be coming up in December. So I will see you all then. Bye.